Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's Profit Maximizer Moment. My name is Wayne Belial. Today we're going to talk about the importance of qualifying so that you can sell smarter. Um, Truthfully, I've made this mistake when I first started. Most business owners do. We want to sell because we've got no clients. So we sit there and we basically take anybody. I've done worse than that. I actually paid somebody to get me cold calls. So I would actually just walk in and say, "Hi, how are you? Yeah, you want to buy from me, I'm sure." You know, it, we think we're doing it right, but in truth, what we need to do is concentrate on bringing prospects in, which is much easier than it used to be. All right. It used to, when I first started, it was much harder. Now it's social media. If you get somebody to help you that knows what they're doing, and if you network and do some things, you can get references in. Problem is, we still want to take every customer that's willing to say yes and hand us a check. After a while, that becomes a huge problem because now you're working with people who are not your best customers. You don't really need a bunch of sales conversations. You just need better ones. I learned this the hard way over years, and now that I'm getting referrals and things like that, this is something I definitely work with. You don't want to spend time with what's a bad prospect because you can't get it back. You should be working on something else. You could be calling one of your current customers. They're the easiest ones to sell. They already know you, like you, and trust you. So what do? Well, you qualify. All right. Eh, But we always feel bad about qualifying. Because like, what do I mean by qualifying? Make sure they're a good fit for you. But it seems like you're interrogating them and a prospect and implying they don't deserve to work with you. I actually had a big problem with this at one time, and it kind of got over it when I got on the school board because there was politics involved, and every new client I had to make sure that they weren't sent by some of the opposition. We won't get into that detail. So I really did almost have to interrogate them to figure out where they came from. But even with that kind of a distraction, qualifying is not disrespectful. It's actually respect. It's showing that I'm want to make sure I don't waste your time. In fact, you can even say that. I don't really want to waste your time. So let me ask a few questions and see if we're a good fit. All right. Because a bad fit doesn't just waste an hour. Worst case scenario is you actually take them on as a customer or a client. Now, understand, this is mainly for service industries, but even if you're selling a product or wholesaling, definitely it can work. You got to make sure you're dealing with the right person. Qualifying is the most honest thing you can do in a sales conversation. It's the opposite of pushy. You're not rejecting people. You're only making sure you sell the people that you can actually help. All right. And that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I've always, the best sales approach in my mind has always been don't sell. Simple as that. What I mean by that is I solve problems. I think of it as if I treat myself as if I was the doctor. Client comes to me, customer comes to you, they have a problem they want you to solve. You figure out what the problem is, you figure out what they've done, figure out a option of solutions, present them all with pros and cons. Well, but before you even get to that, you need to figure out if they're actually a good solution. So how do you figure that out? Well, there's some things that point to it right away. They're very specific about their problem. All right. They know what's wrong in our gross margins dropped 8 points last year. I don't know where it went. Um, Sales are down, profits are down. I don't know why. I'm selling more. Um, that's they're a little bit more specific when you ask some questions as opposed to, I don't know, I'm having trouble paying the bills. The economy's tight. I don't know what to do. Second thing that they have is they have a timeline. Buyers want to solve it now. All right. Browsers are gathering information for someday. So a good question to ask is, when are you hoping to have this resolved? This is a simple question. How fast do you want to solve this problem? Or, what's it hurting you? How, how fast do you want to get rid of this pain? Thinking about the doctor thing again. Have you already tried to solve it already? That's actually a good one. I use that a lot when somebody's coming in there. I don't use it as much now, but because but when I first was doing QuickBooks installations and things like that, I'd walk into a place and they'd have two or three other software programs on their shelf. So I know they've already tried to solve it, but I'd still ask. They'd tell me their problems and I'd explain what the problem was and that and the procedures we had. So if they've already tried to solve it, then they've hired the wrong person, they've hired the wrong software, they've read the wrong book. They're not starting from zero. Browsers are still in the research mode. So, I mean, that helps you a lot. They know what it's costing them. That's or you can help them figure it out. What's it costing them not to solve this problem? All right. Buyers can tell you it's costing me hours. It's costing me a ton of money. Uh, Browsers, they haven't gotten that far. You don't need all 5 of these, all right? No, well, I said 5 and I only told you 4. Fifth one is you're dealing with a decision maker. Boy, have I made that mistake before. I thought I was dealing with the decision maker. And sometimes I was, but there was a hidden decision maker in the background, like a spouse or partner. So make sure you have all the decision makers together. Buyers know who has to say yes. Browsers haven't gotten that far. And like I said, you don't need all 5 of these. 3 will tell you enough. But there's 3 questions you can handle that's going to get you to that point. 3 simple questions, and I've used them actually. What's making you look now? What's prompted this? In my case, it's like, well, I paid too much taxes last year. My past CPA passed away. He's retired. He didn't get me the stuff. He told me 5 days before the deadline I owed 80,000. I actually hear that, by the way. Listen for whether they have a trigger event or whether they're just curious. All right. Real buyers have triggers. Something went on. Another one I get often is, I've outgrown my bookkeeper. We need better information to manage our business. Whatever it is, listen to it. Follow that up with what have you tried so far and what didn't work. So you listen for history. Real buyers have a story. Browsers are just browsers. They don't have a clue what's going on. Okay. The third question I usually try to ask is, if we start working together, what outcome do you want? What looks like we've solved the problem that we won? What would be different in your business if we solve this problem? All right. Listen for whether they can describe success in concrete terms. Vague answers mean vague outcomes. Man, you really need to tighten this one down. I've made this mistake 100 times. If you don't tie this down, one of the problems we run into is they have really unclear, unreasonable is a better word, expectations of what you can do for them. Tax planning. Well, he's going to get rid of all my taxes. Well, that's unreasonable. It's impossible. All right. We're going to, more reasonable is like, we're going to take your situation and we're going to look at all the different options we have. And then what we're going to do from that point is go over the options with you and lower your taxes to the lowest amount we can come up with allowed by law. All right. An amount, can't tell you until we start working. But I usually follow that up as I usually have a simple rule of thumb. If I can't save you at least 4 times what I charge you, I won't charge you. So it's simple as that. So what if they're not a good fit? It happens. All right. Well, usually I try to give them multiple options. All right. So that it's like, well, but sometimes they still want to work with you and you don't feel like it's a good fit. You're the one. It's a two-way street. They're not just hiring you, you're agreeing to be hired. That took me forever to figure it out. I don't have to take everybody. I tend to be a little too, I said, one of my problems, I want to solve people's problems, but that can be a problem if they don't know what their darn problem is. So now I've gotten a little bit more blunt. My staff tells me I'm a little too blunt, but I'm not. I mean, we got to have an adult conversation to make sure we're a good fit. If it's not, I'll often go a couple of ways depending on what I run into. I don't feel like we're a good fit for you right now. This would be a better solution if I've gone that route. And sometimes I just don't feel it's a good client or they're not ready. All right. In which case I'll tell them, it sounds like you're still in the early stages of this. And then I'll give them a list of 4 or 5 things that we need to tighten up and figure out what we're doing before we move on. Not going to be rude. It's not confrontational. It's all respectful. Sometimes you have to say, and usually I do, it's like, this isn't going to work. I'm going to take your money and we're not going to get the desired outcome you want because you don't know what the desired outcome is yet. So let's work on that and then get back to me, unless then we can solve your problem. Okay. Again, short, respectful, no apology, no over explaining. You remember what you're trying to do, protect your time, your profit margin, and be confident that the right clients will come. Okay. Listen, the owners who close consistently are the most persuasive. They're the ones who qualify the hardest and the earliest. They protect their best hours for the conversations with real buyers as opposed to browsers. All right. You can go a little farther than that. On tax returns, people call our office for simple tax returns. My staff will, kind of give them an idea of what the fee is. If they're fee hopping, we're not going to be the one they want. That's on purpose. We don't want that. All right. So if your sales process feels like it's eating up your week, you're just spending too much time, and you want to talk through what's going on and where these leaks are, give us a call. You can go to waynebelisle.com/clarity, and you can schedule a call. Be happy to go over it with you. Hey, until next time, this is Wayne Belisle saying, let's have a great weekend. God bless. Great Memorial Day weekend, since it is Memorial Day Monday. God bless, and see you at church. Let's make this our most profitable year ever. Thank you very much.